My favorite kind of YouTube videos to make is collector edition videos. I mean, obviously, it's typically when I'm opening them, which means I got them, but I am so fascinated by collector editions. And for the few of you who know me IRL, you know that my video game room is a shrine to my favorite video games, and it is littered with collector editions. So I feel like I'm a relative expert when it comes to what a good collector edition should include because I have so freaking many of them. And yet, another one will most likely be added to my collection. Today, Limited Run Games announced a collector edition for River City Girls Zero. Now, if you didn't get a chance to watch my video on River City Girls on the Nintendo Switch, I loved it. I'll post a link to that in the description below. I'm sure you've heard of River City Ransom or some variant of the River City franchise. River City Girls Zero is a remaster of a Super Famicon, which was the Super Nintendo here in the United States. But this is a Super Famicon game that was never westernized, so to speak. So we never got it. Well, because of the huge success of River City Girls and the upcoming River City Girls 2, WayForward has finally decided to release River City Girls Zero. Limited Run Games picked up on this and said, hey, we're going to be offering a collector's edition, which will be available for the Nintendo Switch, for the PlayStation 4, or for the PlayStation 5. We're teasing it today being January 19th, 2022, with the pre orders going live not until January 28th at 10 a.m. via limitedrungames.com. What do you get if you decide to pick up the limited ultimate edition of River City Girls Zero? Well, it's going to run you $150. I do not believe shipping is included in this price. I could be incorrect. I have not bought anything from Limited Run before, so I am not entirely sure how that portion works. But I can tell you, just like any other collector edition, you're going to get a litany of stuff. Now, the question you have to ask yourself are these things you really want, and are you willing to pay a pretty hefty markup for the things you're going to get? I told you at the beginning of this video that I really want this collector edition, and I have been debating it. That said, it is very expensive considering the base game is probably going to be anywhere from $20 to $30 when it launches. I know River City Girls, I picked it up on the Nintendo Switch. I believe it was $30 at launch. It definitely has dropped price. I have seen it at sales as low as $15. So keep that in mind if this is something you're interested in. But what does it include? Well, some interesting things here. First and foremost, you are going to get the obviously the game that's part of limited run games that are actually going to produce this game. So you're going to get the River City Girl Zero Ultimate Edition for the Nintendo Switch, which includes a download code for the game, but the actual box. Which now that I'm reading that, doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of what limited run games is supposed to be? Like, that's not as cool. Like, I want the actual disc or I want the actual Nintendo Switch cartridge. This is a big selling point for many collectors. And one of the reasons I personally buy a lot of collector editions is because I like to have the physical disc. Doesn't mean you can't get the physical disc elsewhere, but having the physical disc, that's the point of being a collector. Services come and services go, but discs and consoles are forever, right? Anyways, you're not going to get that. You're just going to get the actual box, and then inside the box will be a voucher for you to go on to your respective store, in this case, the Nintendo Switch eShop, and download the game. I think that's a big negative, and honestly, I'm talking myself out of this, but for the sake of posterity, we will continue this review. You're also going to get a retro style box, which really reminds me a lot of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System boxes, where you had the black border down the side with the graphic there. Obviously, this is stylized in the Nintendo Switch variant. I assume the box is meant for you to put, if you wanted to, the empty, not included disc game case inside of the retro style box. Something to consider. Despite the fact that it looks like you're getting the figures twice, you're actually only getting them once. They just put them in two different locations, but it will include the titular characters from the River City Girls, Kyoko and Misako. Looks like you're going to get a set of action figures that have swappable faces, different hands, and it looks like that's it. I don't see any other props in the box. Kind of reminds me of some of the other action figures that I have collected over the years, but obviously it doesn't look like they have tons of articulation. Looks like hopefully they stand upright on their own, which is nice. But the fact that you get different faces and hands, you could probably pose them in a way that you're happy with that will sit on your display shelf. I have a lot of like Legend of Zelda and Metroid action figures, and it's really cool because they have different attachments. Like Samus has a different blaster, Link has different weapons, different facial features. You can kind of position them sometimes around other things you have in your cabinet for display. So that is kind of nice, but this is a very bare bones set of what you get. Although it does look like, it's got the Nintendo Switch logo on it. They're really trying to accentuate and heighten the River City Girls theme with the box art, but the actual figures maybe not as great as you would hope. You're also going to get a reversible 18 by 24 poster featuring the boys on one side and the boys on the other, although I do see the girls here. I don't know much about River City Girls Zero, really what the playable character is, what the story is. I'm just kind of waiting to see. I mean, I loved the first one so much that I'm sure, even though this game was made like a long time ago, it's still got, probably playable, probably a slew of playable characters. So I would imagine these are probably people you're going to get to play with throughout the adventure. You're also going to get a retro cartridge keychain, which, if you're looking at the scale, and that is actually the key ring, this thing is going to be massive. I don't think this is something that's actually going to be functional. This is most likely going to be some sort of keychain that you hang on a pegboard or that you hang on your fridge, and it just emulates that Super Nintendo Entertainment System cartridge, kind of along the lines with that box, as I had mentioned. They did not include the plastic protector at the bottom of the circuit board, which I remember most of my Super Nintendo games had. However, it seems to be a pretty decent size. I think I would have preferred this a little more if they made it actually to scale from the Super Nintendo Entertainment System cartridges and dumped the keychain piece, but that's just my opinion. And lastly, you're going to get the original soundtrack from River City Girls Zero. I gotta say, the River City Girls soundtrack, the original, the one that came out a couple of years ago, is phenomenal. Phenomenal, phenomenal. It is a absolute banger of a soundtrack, and I love it. I can't tell based on this if it's an actual CD or not. I tried to look at on their website. This appears to be like a CD jacket, so I assume there's a physical disc inside. That would be nice, even though we didn't get a physical disc with our game. It'd be nice to get one for the soundtrack. So I don't know. The more I look at this, I'm really kind of talking myself out of it. It does seem like a pretty hefty markup considering the game. Let's just assume the game is $30 US. That puts it 150 minus 30, 120 for everything you see here. Action figures, an art style box, a poster, a keychain, and a soundtrack for 120. Seems pretty steep, but if you are interested, fear not, I will post a link to all the goodness in the description below. While you're down there, do yourself a favor and check out my review of River City Girls. Or if you've already played it, good for you. If you haven't played it and you don't want to watch my review, that's fine. Go play it anyway. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.